The pilot ordered a passenger off the plane, but his true identity shocked everyone. The airport was unusually quiet that morning. Sunlight poured through the massive glass windows, reflecting softly on polished floors, while passengers wheeled their suitcases toward Gate 27. Among them was a man in simple clothing, plain gray trousers, a loose-fitting blue jacket, and worn-out shoes. His hair was neatly trimmed, black streaked with a few strands of gray, and a quiet calm rested across his face. His name was Daniel Hart. He moved slowly, with a small backpack slung over his shoulder, the only luggage he carried. Daniel didn't draw attention, nor did he seem to notice the curious looks people gave him. He walked like someone used to being invisible. Inside the aircraft, passengers were settling into their seats. Some scrolled on phones, others leaned against windows, and a few business travelers sat impatiently, tapping fingers against laptops. Daniel found his seat, 14C, an aisle seat beside a young mother with a toddler. He smiled politely and sat down. The mother whispered an exhausted, "Thank you," when he offered to help fasten her child's seatbelt. A few moments later, a commotion began at the front of the plane. A flight attendant whispered urgently to the captain. The captain, a tall stern-faced man named Captain Morris, turned his sharp blue eyes toward the cabin, scanning each row as if searching for someone. Then his gaze locked on Daniel. Captain Morris stepped forward, his voice firm and loud enough to silence the rest of the passengers. "Sir," he said sharply, pointing directly at Daniel, "I need you to stand up and come with me." Murmurs rippled through the plane. A few passengers grabbed their phones, already ready to film whatever drama was about to happen. Daniel blinked, confused. "Is something wrong, Captain? You need to leave this aircraft." Immediately, the captain commanded. "We cannot allow you to remain on board." Gasps. A shocked whisper from the back. "What did he do?" A teenager to his friend, "I bet he's on some watch list." The mother beside him, clutching her toddler tighter, slid slightly away. Daniel stood slowly, shoulders tense beneath his simple jacket. "May I ask why?" he asked quietly. Captain Morris didn't explain. He simply motioned toward the exit. "I do not owe you a reason." Off the plane. Now. The tension in the cabin thickened. A businessman in 3B smirked. "Finally, they're getting rid of trouble before takeoff." Passengers stared at Daniel as if expecting him to explode, to resist, but instead, he nodded gently. "All right," he said, picking up his backpack. His voice carried neither anger nor shame. Just acceptance. He stepped into the aisle. As he began to walk toward the exit, a young flight attendant, her face pale, rushed down the jet bridge toward the captain. "Sir," she called breathlessly, holding a small folder in her trembling hands. We made a mistake." Captain Morris frowned. "What do you mean, a mistake?" The young attendant flipped open the document. Inside was a passenger manifest, but clipped behind it was something else, a confidential marked file with a government insignia. "This man," she stammered, "he isn't a problem. He's the principal subject of the secured list. He's not on a watch list, he's under protection." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Protection? From whom?" Her voice dropped. "Everyone." The cabin had gone dead silent. Every passenger was listening. The captain looked at Daniel, who still stood quietly, hands folded in front of him, waiting. The attendant whispered, barely audible, "He's the Daniel Hart." Several passengers exchanged confused looks. "Who?" But one older man near the emergency exit suddenly gasped. His wrinkled hand covered his mouth. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Daniel Hart, the scientist who saved thousands?" Ripples of recognition began spreading. The articles. The news reports. Years ago, Daniel Hart had created a technology, a life-saving filtration system that provided clean water to war-torn and disaster-struck countries. Tens of thousands of families lived because of that invention. Villages survived. Children survived, and then, he disappeared. No interviews. No awards. No spotlight. He vanished from the world, until now, Captain Morris swallowed hard. Sir. I didn't know. Daniel's gaze was soft, almost kind. You didn't ask, he said simply. A hush fell across the airplane. Passengers who had judged him, filmed him, whispered about him, now lowered their heads. Daniel continued, not in anger, but in calm truth. You saw what I wore. You saw how quiet I was. You assumed that made me lesser, or dangerous. But you never stopped to think, people are not what they appear to be. The mother beside his former seat stood, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Daniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Don't apologize. Instead, teach your child something better. His eyes shifted across the plane, not accusing, but reminding, respect costs nothing. But giving it, can change everything. The captain spoke again, voice low, humbled. Mr. Hart, please, stay. Take your seat. We would be honored to have you on this flight. Daniel paused. For a moment, he looked like he might decline, but then, he smiled. I didn't come here to be honored. I just came to go home. He walked back to his seat. This time, every eye that watched him held respect. The businessman in 3B closed his laptop and stood. Sir, please, take my seat. First class. Daniel shook his head. Comfort is not what I search for. Understanding is. Minutes later, the aircraft finally took off, but something fundamental had changed. Passengers who would normally ignore each other now talked, softly, respectfully. The mother offered Daniel snacks for the flight. The teen who once whispered insults now walked over, eyes lowered, and said, Sir, thank you for what you did for the world. Daniel replied simply, do good quietly. Let the world discover it only when it needs to. As the plane glided above clouds, a strange peace settled over the cabin, as though everyone understood they had just witnessed something rare.